Daniel Farke's press conference yesterday was a little bit of a weird one. It was the first pre-match press conference he'd had since we secured survival, and it went in a little bit of a more sort of philosophical direction than just purely being about the match against Brighton, which you'd sort of expect. And a lot of people read a lot of different things from it, from a lot of different stages of this press conference, so I thought I'd just break down what exactly he said, why he potentially said it, and what it actually means, rather than a couple of people that I've seen take a couple of the quotes and go, oh my god, he's leaving, or oh my god, he's whatever. But before I do, I'd usually appreciate if you'd subscribe, pop a like on the video, that'd be lovely. Thanks. Anyway, let's dive into it. So, he sort of began this big segment of his press conference after doing the team news by using the phrase that his job is done here, which obviously a lot of people are going to look at and go, oh, that's a bit of a departure. I think it was Graham Smith on Twitter that said that it started feeling like a little bit of a farewell, which I kind of understand, because when you say that my job here is done, the assumption is, well, okay, that means that you're moving on to a job somewhere else or something along those lines. But it turns out that wasn't quite what he meant. He then went on to explain that, in essence, this sort of phase of Leeds United, the idea of restabilise the club when he came in, because the squad was absolutely insanely volatile. You had so many players leaving, so many players that wanted to leave that didn't, and eventually building a squad out of that. You had getting promoted, which obviously took 2 seasons. The original hope when he came in was, we think it might take 2 seasons to get up, which eventually is what happened. Got unlucky in the playoff final. Here we are. Eventually got promoted, so that's part 2 off the checklist, and then part 3 on the checklist was survive in the Premier League, which obviously we've managed now, which is absolutely wonderful. But all of that within 3 years of a 4-year contract means that the sort of initial steps, the plan, the goal has been achieved. So to say that the job here is done makes a little bit of sense. As he said, when I signed the contract, we spoke about goals. My mission's fulfilled, and there's nothing to add. All boxes are ticked. We had to steady the ship, reunite the club. We've upgraded Thorpe Arch for future generations, tackled PSR by creating value in youth players. We've done this, which makes complete sense, to be completely honest with you. And he says the final step was breaking the curse of promoted clubs. Doing it in this way is our biggest achievement. I will now concentrate on the last home game. Want to show my appreciation to supporters. After West Ham, I'll go home and enjoy the summer. I'll allow myself to look back then. At this stage, I agree. It was looking a little bit farewell flavoured. But he then proceeds to move on to the next part of his talk, and this is where it feels like he's less talking from a position of, I'm leaving, and more goes in the direction of, I'm beginning to talk from a position of strength or power, or however you want to phrase it, in which he says that we have to speak about new goals, the way we want to achieve it, and the processes. Before I speak about the future, I'm not the club, they decide the goals, but he's going to speak to them in a trustful atmosphere. So it's less a case of, this chapter is done, now I leave. It's, this chapter of Leeds United is done, now I'd like to be the person that writes the next one. And to be honest with you, that makes complete sense in my opinion. He then proceeds to set out the need for a 3 to 5 year plan. I'm just going to see if I've got the specific quote on that one. Yeah, he said if there's any specific doubt on what he said, if anyone has the wrong interpretation, it might be because he's ill. Sounds a little bit raw, but he's not got 1% of doubt in his head. It's just an honest, realistic view on things. He's full of belief, energy, and trust, but we need to speak about the next steps. We need a 3, a 4, or a 5 year plan. And he linked that to player contracts as well. There's been a lot of discussion recently around Pascal Struijk's contract, around Ethan Ampadu's contract, around Joe Rodon's contract as another example. But he said that there's no specific plan on that right now, or at least not one that is going to be publicly discussed, because, and to quote, no, this is connected to what we have to speak about, to goals we want to set, processes, and what is possible. Possible to keep our best players? Is it possible to bring quality in? After Marcelo, and this is talking about the 2021 season where the players that we brought in were Jack Harrison, we converted a loan to a permanent deal, which, looking back, not the best. We got Junior Firpo in, which, fair enough, I liked him in the Championship, but he wasn't the player that we needed at the time. And we got Dan James in. After Marcelo, we missed our chance to develop and improve, and I think a lot of people would agree that that is ultimately what led to us getting relegated. The fact that we didn't upgrade further after that first season of survival led to a little bit of rot in the second season. You bring in Jesse Marsh, who panic signs the players that he signed, and that led to even further rot, which led to relegation, which ultimately led to getting Daniel Farke in, which would have rather not gone through those years. But at the end of the day, we are where we are. But something fell off my desk. But we're in a position where we can avoid that happening again. And that discussion with the club is going to be absolutely key, in my opinion. And that focus on the next goals is going to be key. And he also emphasised the fact that the owners need to be very, very ambitious. He said he can't speak about the future until he's spoken with the club on it. His take, he's ambitious. He wants to manage winning teams who play for something instead of avoiding something. If you want someone who does more of the same, it's not me. I have to be convinced of a project. It comes to an end because the project we spoke about is fulfilled and the boxes are ticked. You have to set yourself new goals. I know the owners are ambitious. I know what's possible here and how connected I am to this club. It's important we're on the same page. All of this seems to be implying to me that, and this is where I get into the territory of my reading and analysis of the press conference. It's less a case of I'm leaving because I think the club doesn't want to push on. It's more of a, okay, 49ers, let's do it then. Let's prove that what we want to do is get the club to the top. Because Daniel Farke has set out his stall here. Farke has said, I don't want to be a manager that is avoiding relegation. I want to be a manager that is pushing for Europe, that is pushing for cups, that is pushing for the league title in the long term, which is a big goal, but in the long term, anything's achievable in the Premier League because we've seen teams in the top six collapse. We've seen teams outside the top six qualifying for Europe, the Champions League. It's doable. Daniel Farke is seeing that it's doable, and this feels like a sort of, go on, prove that that's what you want, shout to the 49ers. And I, if I'm honest, I'm a big fan of that. That's kind of what we need, because Daniel Farke likes playing that sort of, we're in the upper half, so we're going at team style. You can tell that he was very reluctant to go into the more defensive style into the second half of the season because it took his time to go to three at the back. But it seems to be an idea of, okay, I've done that, but I would like to have the capacity to go at teams, to fight teams on their, well, on our terms, but also take it head to head and go, we genuinely think we can beat you in a blow for blow fight. And it's a call to the 49ers to say, if you back me, if you give me the squad that I need, then I will stick around and I will proceed to do that because that is what I want to do at this club. And he also mentioned the way that when he was initially hired, it wasn't a case of he applied for the job at Leeds. Leeds reached out to him and said, look, we think you're the guy for the job. This is his way of saying, I hope I've convinced you to come to get me for the next contract. Tell me what you want to do so we can agree on pushing forward. He also very firmly says that he now feels like he's a part of the club and he feels like he's effectively a member of the club at this point, which I am very happy about because I like it when a manager feels like they are connected to the side. You never felt that with someone like a Marsh. Allardyce never, even if we would have stayed up, it would have never felt like he wanted to sort of be here beyond big payday. Gracia always felt a little bit like dropped in, didn't feel like he had any real connection to the club in the way that Bielsa did, in the way that Daniel Farke does now. And that is a thing that grows over time, I admit. But it's a good thing to have, and it's a thing that we have with Daniel Farke, and I hope that the club match that sort of strive for ambition, because that is what is going to not only keep us in the Premier League, it's what's going to get us climbing, and it's what is going to get us to where we feel like we deserve to be. And we'll get there in the long run, in my opinion. That's not a doubt. But yeah, we'll see. I'm hopeful. Either way, that's just what I think about Daniel Farke's press conference. I'll do a preview on Sunday morning. Just wake up, give that a watch, go right into the match. It'll be lovely. Subscribe if you haven't yet. That's always lovely. Become a channel member as well. I much appreciate that. You get videos like this one early, basically every day. Every time I do a video, I give it to members first. Yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo.